Okay. Yes, welcome to Manitoba, where Canada's heart is calling. I'm Karin Schreiber, Travel Manitoba's representative in the European markets, and I'm looking forward to giving you an introduction to our beautiful province off the beaten path now. So, oops, sorry. To start with, let's locate Manitoba. We are right in the center of Canada, surrounded by Saskatchewan in the west, Ontario in the east, and in the north, there is Nunavut and a part of the coast of Hudson Bay. How do we get there? Unless you arrive on a road trip coming from one of our neighboring provinces, most Manitoba trips begin in our provincial capital of Winnipeg, which I've earmarked in that map. Winnipeg is located right on Trans-Canada Highway. You can either fly to Winnipeg from the UK, that would be a connecting flight via Montreal or Toronto, and from there it would be another 2.5 to 3 hours flight to Winnipeg. Or you could change the means of transportation in Toronto and carry on by train. As Via Rail's Canadian, which is running from Toronto to Vancouver, stops in Winnipeg. Even if your clients don't plan a long vacation in Manitoba, it would still be a neat option to break up the long train ride for a few days in order to enjoy a city break in Winnipeg before heading on to Vancouver. Just an idea. Now, once you've arrived in Winnipeg, you are probably totally in for a surprise. It's the largest city in the prairies with almost 800,000 people calling it home. It's an exciting city, multicultural, very modern and creative, but at the same time, it has deep Indigenous roots. There are many festivals, powwows, art exhibitions, and music events offering countless opportunities for urban explorers. Winnipeg also has an outstanding culinary scene with many great restaurants and also some absolutely world-class attractions. I'd say let's have a peek.
Has been written over 6,000 years.
When you visit Winnipeg,
You'll discover a city rich in culture and creative to the core.
we make the cold cool.
and dance under the prairie sun.
Pull up a seat at our table. All are welcome here.
Our stories flow together like the rivers that connect our city.
Everywhere you go, an opportunity to learn.
To listen,
To grow.
We're as real as it gets.
shaped by a global community.
Anchored by a deep history.
Visit Winnipeg to discover your story here.
Okay, just a little impression. A great way to get a first impression of Winnipeg would be a guided city tour. And while there are no hop-on, hop-off buses in the city, you could book a tour with the Winnipeg Trolley Company. These tours take you to some of Winnipeg's most famous landmarks, which you can enjoy from inside a historically inspired orange trolley. Simply the best way to see all the different areas and attractions and get a feel for the city's diversity. The Forks is probably the most important place in Winnipeg. This is where the Red River and the Assiniboine River merge and where the Indigenous peoples already gathered more than 6,000 years ago. And still today, it's a buzzing meeting place for locals and visitors alike. The Forks is home to Winnipeg's train station, so if you arrive on the Canadian, you're right in the middle of everything. It's also home to the beautifully renovated Forks Market, which used to house the former horse stables of the railway companies and is now home to charming boutiques, craft shops, restaurants, and bars. It's simply a great place to connect with the locals after their workday. And the Forks is also home to the famous Canadian Museum for Human Rights, the most eye-catching landmark in Winnipeg's skyline. It's one of Canada's national museums and one of the few outside the capital city of Ottawa. The museum amazes with a unique and stunning architecture, as you can see in this image, but it's also a very special place from the inside. It uses thought-provoking interactive exhibits to highlight different perspectives on human rights, and a visit should not be missed when in the city. And please tell your clients to take some time when they go. Another great museum in Winnipeg is the Inuit Art Center Kamayuk, which is part of the Winnipeg Art Gallery. It is home to the world's largest public collection of Inuit art. They feature over 14,000 exhibits here, and more of 5,000 of them are on display in a 3-story visible vault. That's super impressive. The Historic Exchange District used to be Winnipeg's economic hub at the turn of the 20th century and is known for its beautiful historic buildings reminding of old Chicago. Today, it's the city's arts and cultural center with galleries, boutiques, restaurants, and really cool cocktail bars. Assiniboine Park features the city's zoo, where you can experience Manitoba's north without even leaving the city. The exhibit Journey to Churchill offers a sneak peek of what you could expect to see in Churchill on the coast of Hudson Bay, including polar bears, of course. Assiniboine Park is also home to Winnipeg's newest attraction, called The Leaf. This large indoor garden is part of Canada's Diversity Gardens and houses 4 unique biomes, as well as Canada's tallest indoor waterfall. For authentic Indigenous flavors, you should head to Feast Cafe Bistro in Winnipeg's West End. Here, the menu highlights traditional First Nations ingredients with a modern spin, and you should try the butternut squash bannock pizza or the shredded bison dip, which are both very delicious. Winnipeg is not just a great place to visit and explore, it's also the gateway for a number of other adventures in Manitoba. And one of them is, of course, the subarctic safari in Churchill, in the province's north on the coast of Hudson Bay. Now, Churchill is really off the beaten path. It's around 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles north of Winnipeg, and there is no road access. You can either fly there. From Winnipeg, that's a 2.5 hours flight, or you can take the train. That takes 2 days and 2 nights to get there. In Churchill, everything is about subarctic wildlife, especially, of course, polar bears, as Churchill is known as the polar bear capital of the world. But there are, of course, even more species of wildlife up north, for instance, the lovely beluga whales, and there are different seasons and also different suppliers who all provide different kind of experiences. And I've spoken a lot about Churchill in the Manitoba Masterclass on Wednesday, and if you should have missed it, I recommend to watch the recording to learn more about the subarctic adventures on the coast of Hudson Bay. Today, we focus on another experience, since Winnipeg is also the gateway for a road trip through the province's south. Your clients could explore the region either by rental car or even by motorhome. You probably know that the large RV companies do not have a station in Manitoba, not yet at least, but there is a family-owned company near Winnipeg renting a small fleet of RVs. If you have clients interested in that kind of experience, please get in touch with me and I'll be happy to connect you with Styling's RV. But now, let's hit the road. And we first drive eastwards to Whiteshell Provincial Park. En route, we can make a little detour and stop at the Borealis Beading Studio in St. Genevieve, just 45 minutes east of Winnipeg. Here, your clients can enjoy a wonderful Indigenous experience when they join hands-on cultural learnings, teaching the art and skill of beading or finger weaving, along with its cultural and historical significance to the Métis people. But then we reach beautiful Whiteshell Provincial Park, featuring a rocky landscape with forests and lots of water. There are more than 200 lakes in this park alone. All in all, we have over 100,000 lakes and waterways in Manitoba. So here in Whiteshell Provincial Park, we have the typical scenery of the Canadian Shield. And all this makes, of course, a beautiful backdrop for all kinds of outdoor activities, be it hiking or biking or paddling or simply fun days on the beaches and cliffs. And if you like, there are even guided horseback rides offered by Falcon Beach Ranch. Whiteshell Provincial Park is also home to the Bannock Point Petroforms, a sacred site of the Anishinaabe, featuring rocks arranged in the shapes of turtles or snakes. Visitors can take a tour with an Indigenous guide from Whiteshell Petroforms to better understand the site's significance. The Whiteshell is also cabin country, so if your clients would like to spend a holiday like the Canadians do in a private cabin on the lakefront, they can find wonderful options in this park. There's really no need to be flown out into the wilderness for this kind of experience. Our next stop is giant Lake Winnipeg, which is far away from any ocean but reminds more of a sea but a lake. It is Manitoba's largest lake and the 12th largest freshwater lake in the world. However, we just visit the smaller southern part of the lake, since the larger part further north, which you can't even see in the map, lies in complete wilderness and cannot be reached. Lake Winnipeg projects a real maritime atmosphere. You can enjoy a beach day and the soft white sand found at many beaches on the lake's southern shores, including Grand Beach, Patricia Beach, and Victoria Beach along its east side. A little further north, on the lake's west side, is the cozy coastal village of Gimli, where fishing was the way of life. Visitors can watch sailboats and yachts launching from the marina and enjoy the long beach with its great offer for water sports activities. Gimli also looks back on a long Icelandic heritage. This is why a huge Viking watches over the coast. We finally reach Hekla Grindstone Provincial Park. Its centerpiece is Hekla Island, a rugged island with picturesque limestone shorelines and the old Hekla Lighthouse. Also, Hekla was once the home of a small Icelandic community whose cultural heritage can still be seen in many places on the island. The diverse landscapes of the provincial park are home to a large number of wildlife species, including an impressive colony of pelicans. Simply enjoy the show when the mighty wings of these majestic birds power them up into the air. And finally, there is Gull Harbor, a great gateway to year-round activities in the stunning scenery of Hekla Island. It is known as a hotspot for fishing, but there is so much more to do for outdoor lovers, both on and off the water. You can rent bikes, kayaks, or jet skis right at the marina. So our next stop is Riding Mountain National Park in Manitoba's southwest. It rises above the surrounding prairie, sitting atop the Pembina Escarpment, and is a natural oasis of woodland forest, prairie grassland, marshes, and boreal forest. With its different ecosystems, this park offers great opportunities for wildlife viewing, since moose, wolf, black bear, elk, and many other species call the park home. There's also a resident herd of prairie bison at Lake Audie, and you can go on a bison photo safari right on your own vehicle. The park also offers perfect terrain for all kinds of outdoor activities, as hiking, biking, canoeing, or horseback riding. And don't miss the sunset cruises and boat rentals on Clear Lake, nor the cultural programs offered by Parks Canada. While a trip to Riding Mountain National Park is about enjoying nature, don't forget the park's townsite, Wasagaming, right on beautiful Clear Lake. Wasagaming is very laid back, featuring just a few hotels, restaurants, and shops, and definitely no large international tour groups. It's more the locals who spend their holidays here, and that's actually the case for all of Manitoba. From Riding Mountain National Park, we now head back to Winnipeg, and on this trip, we drove around 1,100 kilometers or 700 miles, a pretty relaxed distance, allowing lots of time for activities en route. And this tour would be a perfect recommendation for clients who have been to Canada before, have fallen in love with the country, of course, and are now keen to explore new things in their favorite destination. Of course, your clients could also combine a Manitoba road trip with our neighbor provinces like Saskatchewan in the west or Ontario in the east. And in case you're interested in these kind of itinerary suggestions, please simply reach out to me and I'll be happy to send them over to you. Well, this is the end of my little presentation. Have a look now at the following video to learn that whatever your heart needs, Canada's heart is calling.
In Manitoba, we know that the heart needs travel. But we all need something a little different from the places we go. So when your heart needs quiet, follow it to the middle of Canada and the peaceful moments you can only find here. Or when your heart needs to race, explore the wild and remote corners of this province. When your heart needs to sing, there's culture alive in Manitoba's towns and cities. And when your heart needs to reflect, there's so much to learn from our people and their histories. Whatever your heart needs, Canada's heart is calling.
Yes, that was it. And I got a question from Maddie. Thanks for asking that, Maddie. What are Winnipeg and the parks like in spring and autumn? Well, Manitoba is a year-round destination. You could also travel there in winter if you like. Like, for instance, at Riding Mountain National Park, there are many options for outdoor activities even in winter. Winnipeg is a winter destination. There's a lot going on. Spring and autumn are short seasons. We have continental climate there with nice summers, hot summers, cold winters, and in the shoulder seasons, the weather can be a little bit tricky. So the best travel time for road trips, for instance, would be from the beginning of June to the end of September, more or less, a little bit into October. But then, especially in the parks, there's not so much going on in the shoulder season. It more starts in the winter again. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, I don't see any further questions. Please feel free to ask them in the chat. Otherwise, thank you for listening in and for joining my little trip to Manitoba. Is